Well, good morning all. Lovely Saturday morning, and yeah, I've got to bring you my Saturday video. Well, I'm kind of a little bit late with that one because it's been a really hectic week and I just haven't had a chance to even look at doing videos. But today I've got a lot of work I've got to do here at the off-grid cabin, so we're not doing anything about solar or anything about power, anything like that. This is just going to be a video for you people that like seeing just my ordinary everyday a day in the life of me and getting chores around the off-grid cabin here done. So I've got a few things, major things that are coming up. We're getting a shed going into here, so I've got to get concrete done. I've got to get some fill put in there, which I'm going to use the truck from a bit of material from the neighbours that he's got left over. And I've got to get the the verandas concreted. So I've got to do some work at the veranda. So let's have a look at what I've got to get done today. We come down into the veranda area. I really should have concreted this when I first put the slab in. I was going to pave it, but pavers, well, they're becoming a pain. So what I need to do is all this eventually is going to have to be cleared out, which is pretty easy to move the barbecue, those pavers and the table. But I do have the water tank here that needs to be moved. And I've also got my grey water system here that has to be pulled out as well. So I've got to get that done today. I'm going to pull the grey water system out, move that water tank. The 12-volt pump here that pumps the water into the off-grid cabin, I'm going to be doing away with that and putting one of the mains pumps in so I can get better pressure when I'm doing the laundry. And I'm going to do away with this little tank because, well, I've got that tank there and this tank here to be able to feed water into the cabin. So I really don't need to be worrying about having to top that up every single week. We do need to replace this. So what we're going to do is pull this out and they're going to then replace it with this pump here. And that's the brand of it. A Bunnings special, of course. Put that in and get the water back into the cabin.
A few moments later.
Right, we have our 12-volt pump off and our grey water system pulled out of the ground here. Let us have a look at it because I know you're going to want to have a look at it. And one thing I did notice, if we're really, really quiet, we look in here, my fish are wanting, you can kind of see them there, they're floating around for feed. So we better give them a feed as well. So let's do that first because the fish are hungry. They're always hungry. Let's do that. Look at that. Look, see, straight up already. That's what happens when you hang around the fish pond. Right, back to the components. So there's my grey water system. I'll do another video on that, on how all that works at a later date, but I've pulled that out and I've also pulled the 12-volt pump out. So what we need to do is we need to get this tank emptied out and moved, fill in that hole and put the 230-volt pump in its place. So the question is going to be with this tank, I've got to get the water out of the tank and I don't want to dump it onto the ground. So we can see we're a little bit under half a tank. So the way I'm going to do that is I've got our pump and I've just plumbed this up as obviously a temporary thing so I can get the water out of this. So let's turn it on. Hopefully it'll self-prime. These ones generally do need priming, but I'm hoping it's going to self-prime itself. And oh, come on, we'll turn that on, and hopefully I can get it to prime. I'll turn the pump on here. So it sounds like it's going to prime. So what I've got is I've just got the hose coming out here. Yeah, that's primed, and that's coming up into the tank, up into here like that. Yeah, I know there's going to be a few that are going to want to see how this works. So it's just really a garden fitting that I've put into. I do this on all my tanks so I can transfer water across via the pumps, and it's just doing that there. So that's a pretty simple concept for when you've got your tanks. Right, we're nearly empty. I just need to pull this across so I don't lose prime. So I'll just hold that across there like that. Oh, that's heavy. Oh, there she goes. That's it. How empty is that? Oh, I did pretty well at that. Okay, let's go ahead and turn this off. Righto, so now what I want to do is I just want to unhook everything, get this tank out of the way, fill that hole, and get this pump into that position there.
One eternity later.
Righto, so the tank is out of the way. I've moved the table, the little mat that I had down there, just to clear everything out of the way to give me a chance to get in there, fill in that hole, and get the pump in position. Now, there's a little trick that I'm going to show you when it comes to these fittings. So this pump's going to go here, and I'm going to use a combination of Rural and Metric. So Rural is Imperial, and Metric is obviously Metric. So we've got Imperial here and we've got Metric up there. So how do I kind of combine those together? Well, there's a simple little trick with these. Now, I know there's a few that probably don't know this. So I'm going to step you through this little trick when it comes to these fittings and how you can adapt Rural and Metric together. So these are a whole heap of different compression fittings. They're the Filmac brand fittings, and the one thing I like about the Filmac brands is they're interchangeable. So here, where you've got the blue collar inside the fitting here, that is blue representing Metric. And then when you've got this sort of a brownie collar and the tail here, that is your Rural or Imperial. So how do we get Metric and Imperial to fit into each other? It kind of doesn't make sense. Well, the way Filmac works is quite clever. So the little collar here, which is a little clamp that clamps onto the pipe to hold it in, well, that comes out and then you slide your pipe in. But the way they've designed that is this can actually also take a Imperial or a Rural fitting as well. So that one fitting can either go Rural, if I can get this apart. Hang on a sec. No, I'll get 2 seconds. There we go. It's very hard to do this and shoot with one hand. Okay, so we can pull that out and we can put that in. Now this has become Metric. So why would you want to do that? Well, I've done that in this case is when I've had Rural and Metric pipe together. So I've had Rural pipe here and Metric pipe come into the one fitting here. And I've also, if let's say we want this tail here, so this fitting has got a tail on it, so it's a male 1-inch fitting. And by the way, we're talking about the interchangeability with the same size. So you can't put a 2-inch tail in a 1-inch fitting. It's pretty obvious, that one. So let's say we want this, but it's Metric and we want it to be Imperial. Well, there's 2 ways we can do it. We can either get ourselves one of these, which is actually the Imperial one, and then we can go and get ourselves a fitting which is kind of like this and put it in there, or we just swap it over like what I just showed you a second ago. So a lot of people don't realise that with the Filmac brands, the modern Filmac brands that they bring out now, the Rural and the Rural or Imperial and the Metric are interchangeable and they can go together, and it's really, really easy, and it makes it so much better if you're not having to buy more and more fittings. Okay, so this is an example here of where I'm going to do some interchanging of fittings. So I need to put an elbow just here for the pipe, but the elbow that I've got is Rural fitting, and this pipe here is Metric fitting. So what I'm going to do here is I've got my Rural fitting and I've got this Metric joiner here. So I'm going to take the collar out of this, swap it over. It's that simple. And here I've taken that tail out. I've taken the collar out of here. I'm just going to push that into there, as I showed you just before. And we do need to use the Metric nut that goes on it as well. So let me go ahead and get this done. You get the idea, I know. Okay, so I have it in, and there is the joiner that was Metric that is now Rural. Okay, another thing I want to do is I want to have a look at this filter here to see what the condition of the filter is. Now, I don't have one of these filters with me. I'm going to have to go and buy another one, but I want to open this up just for you to have a look at. So I've already loosened it off for you for the camera, and we can have a look to see how dirty the filter is. This was probably done about 12 months ago, so it's due to be replaced. how dirty is my filter. When it comes off, oh yeah, that is definitely dirty. That definitely needs changing without a question of doubt. So I'm going to have to go pick myself another one of these filters up. So I gave it a little bit of a rinse out, bit of a wash. It's going to have material in there. I know I do need to replace it, but I don't have one for now. So clean it up slightly. We'll put it back in. We'll put it back on. Get this back on there and get this pump started and get some water into the cabin. Because I'm going to have to prime this because I know this is not going to want to work. So I've got this little fitting here. I'm just going to crack this open and that should prime my pump in theory. There we go. Oh, right on the power lead. That's not a good idea. Maybe I should move that. Would be a good idea. There we go. So I'm going to bleed that up, prime it. There we go. That's primed. That's good. Shut that off like that. Right, let's turn it on. Let's make some water go into the cabin. I do have a tap open inside the cabin. So, that sounds like we've got water going. So I'll let that bleed up for a little bit. Done. So I'm going to end the video here because I do have a few other things that I want to get sorted out today. I don't want a video because it just eats so much time up. So if you liked the video, just you and me here on the off-grid cabin doing some work this morning. If you like that, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and wait for the next awesome video that will be coming out on the Off-Grid channel.